Hey everybody, welcome back to Molecast. Yay! If you don't know me, my name is Mole, for some people also known as Mole. I am one of the mods on this server, but in my real life job, I am a PhD student in molecular biology. I am working almost finished with my PhD, so close. And this podcast is really just discussing musical topics or things that are going on currently in the music world, but looking at them through a scientific point of view. And my thesis work is on how our bodies respond to viruses. So if you're more familiar with the science world, that's what my research focus is on. But really, these Molecasts are a chance for all of us to come together, to vibe as a community, and to basically just give a chance for us to, learn and learn and vibe together, and just another opportunity for us to all to come together as a server. So, why not? Before with the Molecast, and this is kind of going into the announcement portion of my podcast. Before Molecast used to be bi-weekly, so we would have Molecast episodes every 2 weeks. I am getting ready to take my final exams. So in the PhD world, you have to take exams to defend both your thesis to your committee and defend your thesis to the public. Thank you. But because of that, and because of the additional pressure of, defending my thesis, I'm changing the schedule up a little bit for Molecast. So instead of them being bi-weekly, they're going to be monthly. So at the end of the month, we will have a Molecast episode. That way, it just helps me to balance between the work that I need to do for my thesis and the research that I do for these Molecasts. But I really do enjoy hosting these Molecasts, so hopefully the schedule works out. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Someone also asked earlier before starting the recording if other people in the server could host podcasts. And yes, definitely do. We've had people host podcasts before. There used to be a Muffin Cast. There was a podcast super early in the server, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who hosted it. Whoever you are, I am so sorry. But yeah, Kayla, yes, thank you, Kay. Kayla's podcast, thank you. Yes, Kayla used to host podcasts. They were super late at night, but they were also really good. Cadenza hosts podcasts every once in a while. So if you would like to host a podcast, by all means, please do so. It's just a way for our community to come together and vibe. Yeah. And if you have any questions, just, let me know. And before we get started on today's subject, which is really about COVID-19 a year later, and we're, heading into the summer months here in the Northern Hemisphere, and what's the music world going to look like? Something that I've really talked about a lot in previous Molecast episodes is how classical music and the science world seem to be very separate from each other. But now, as we, continue forward, we're seeing a lot more science studies in classical music. You guys have probably seen it, classical music, helps make you smarter, helps your children, helps the world, appreciate classical. We've all seen them. We've all seen those studies. But from the science end, we really haven't seen that many studies on how art and classical music can help research until now. So I was freaking out about this article, and I will put it in the show notes of this recording that will be posted on YouTube. And if you would like, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel where all the previous episodes are posted. So this article is basically talking about how the arts can help you to craft a successful research career. And it talks about a lot of, amazing researchers, both past and present, that utilize art and music in their research careers and how it's helped them to really, pioneer their careers in science. I loved it. I loved the entire article. There's not that many articles, and science for a very long time, as in classical music, has been very strict in the sense that you can't branch out and explore different things. So seeing this article, especially in something like Nature, which in the science world, Nature is like, I don't know, the New York Times of science. Seeing this is starting to show that science is allowing a shift into allowing more genres and more influences and helping to become better researchers. So I will post it. Yes, Main Nature. This is Main Nature. Yeah, it's in the news section of Nature. But I will post it in the show notes. You guys should check it out. I love this article. Yes, yeah, it'll be in the show notes of the YouTube video. So, okay, and now let's get started. COVID-19. We're a year in. It's been a really long time. I'm emotionally, physically, spiritually exhausted by COVID-19. It has been a year. But, in that year, I think we've learned a lot, both in the musical aspect and in the scientific aspect of the virus. The music world has completely changed its approach to how it shares music, how it disseminates music, and the science world has really shifted its focus on how can we get back to a new normal. But a year ago, well, maybe not a year ago, maybe more like I'm looking at my calendar right now. Maybe a little more than 6 months ago, I had an intro episode on COVID-19. And, at that time, we were talking about, what we knew about the virus, what orchestras were doing about it, and why we couldn't have indoor in-person concerts at the time. But now, a year later, we're in a much better position than we were. We have vaccines. We are starting to vaccinate people. There's hope, but there's still a lot of things that are possibly threatening that approach to a new normal. Yes, youth. And in that year of COVID-19, we did all meet. We have this wonderful server. And I'm super, super blessed about it. But yesterday, so originally, let me just preface this off. Originally, the Molecast episode was not supposed to be about COVID-19. Originally, we were supposed to talk about, online learning with music, Zoom fatigue. There was a whole plan. And then I went and listened to Greta's practice session yesterday. And when I was listening to Greta's practice session yesterday, we got on a conversation about COVID-19. And as we were talking, there was a lot of things that, people practicing really didn't understand or were very, very confused about. Because again, there's so much information out there. And I was like, you know what? Instead of waiting to have this Molecast in like May or June, why don't we just have this now? Because in the Northern Hemisphere, we're getting ready for the summer months. There are places that are beginning to reopen, if not fully open, Texas. You didn't hear that from me. Oop. So I think having this information is super, super important. And one of the big things that people are talking about with COVID-19 are these things known as COVID-19 variants. And, a lot of the conversation is, Mole, what is a variant? Why are these variants becoming so prominent? Like, why wasn't this a thing, 6 months ago? So let me break some things down for you. First, 5 days ago, there was a count of 4,000 variants. So there's many, many, many variants out there. Give me a minute. There's 4,000 variants out there total. However, what is a variant? So first off, a variant, let's take a piece like the Beethoven Spring Sonata, right? And the Beethoven Spring Sonata is well known. It's like da 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 da. And I'm not a singer. Spoiler alert, I'm not a singer. I cannot sing. But we know what the Spring Sonata sounds like, and it sounds beautiful. The biggest thing with a variant is that we have the original piece. So if we imagine that COVID-19 is the original Spring Sonata piece, but then instead of having the original Spring Sonata, let's pretend we cut out the first 5 measures of the Spring Sonata. And instead of having the first original 5 measures of the Spring Sonata, we instead put in dun 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 dun. And then we go into the Spring Sonata. Yes. So when you listen to the whole piece, you originally think, oh man, this is Beethoven's 5th Symphony. But then as you keep listening, you're like, no, this is the Spring Sonata. And you listen to the rest of the Spring Sonata, and then someone asks you, okay, well, what piece is this? Well, you would say, I think the most of this piece is the Spring Sonata, but there's something weird going on at the beginning. That can be considered a musical variant, right? And it's kind of similar to the variants of COVID-19. COVID-19 has an original sequence, and something changes, so it looks slightly different than the original virus, but the piece itself is still mostly the same. Yes, it's more dangerous than the Spring Sonata itself. So the thing is that right now there are some variants out there, and okay, I'm going to give my personal opinion. This opinion is not backed by the Ray Chen Violin server or any entities of Ray Chen, including the future startup. But some of these variants have names, such as the UK variant, the South African variant, the Brazil variant, and they're also known as B117, B1351, P1. Personally, I believe that using regional names such as the UK variant, the South African variant, the Brazilian variant is a poor nomenclature system because there are 4,000 variants. Are there 4,000 locations? No. There are not 4,000 locations. And it introduces prejudice and stigmatism. And we should not have that. We shouldn't have that in science. We shouldn't have that in music. We shouldn't have that against people. Exactly. And if we continue naming things by a region, it makes it even harder to name. So the scientific method of naming these viruses is this. So you might have seen this in the news. No, Vero, no. We don't need city name now. Oh God, that'd be horrible. Like the London variant. Oh my gosh, that'd be so scary. So you might have seen names like that. In the news as well, like B117, B1351, P1. And those are the scientific names, but the scientific community has not come up with a consensus nomenclature on how to communicate these variants to the public. The Crossroads Street variant, yes, Newt. So that is my personal opinion. some scientists may feel differently on the nomenclature, but personally, I think that using locations and regions to name viruses is a bad idea. But back to the science. So you guys might have heard many, many times by many, many people, please wear your mask. Like, please just wear a mask. Maybe you have to wear double masks, right? Yes, we've all heard this. Why do we have to wear a mask? Well, we have to wear a mask to prevent the spread of the virus. Well, why do we have to prevent the spread of the virus? Because you can't have the creation of variants without a host. So again, going back to our spring sonata example, where we cut out certain parts of the sonata and put in different parts of the music. So if we have, let's say, patient 0, who has the original spring sonata virus. I'm never going to look at Beethoven the same again. I'm going to sit there when like someone's playing like the spring sonata and be like, yes, the spring sonata virus. Beautiful. Just beautiful music. So what happens is that the original spring sonata will pass from one person to another. So how variants get started is that the virus, when it's creating its composition, unlike our cells, which are really good at proofreading and seeing the mistakes and saying, oh, wow, this harmony here this is horrible. And it makes sure that everything in the spring sonata is perfect. It's a perfect copy. But the virus, however, does not have that kind of proofreading. It will make many, many mistakes because its goal is, I want to make as much of this as fast as possible and spread it to everyone, which is why you'll have things such as, maybe the 5th symphony at the beginning, or let's say another part gets clipped out and it's actually the Sibelius. We have, you're like, da, 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 da. You're like, what the? Oh, gosh. And the thing is that variant gets spread to another person. Well, then that variant could go to another person. And then the virus could add in another piece. So now on top of having dun 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 da 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 da, maybe you'll have like, I don't know, da 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 da. Oh my gosh, I cannot sing. So what will happen is you'll have a mutation on top of a mutation on top of a mutation. And this could make vaccines basically ineffective because now the vaccine is made towards a certain, composition, spring sonata. But now your immune system doesn't recognize what piece is actually playing. Is it spring sonata? Is it Sibelius? Is it the 5th symphony? I don't know. So then what happens is that vaccine is rendered ineffective. And actually that's a really good segue into vaccines, because we've heard a lot of conversation about vaccines. We've heard about these mRNA vaccines, we've heard about these traditional viral vector vaccines, we've heard things like, booster shots and Pfizer and Mrna, like what is going on? So first, let's go through and talk about the difference between an mRNA vaccine and a traditional viral vector vaccine. So an mRNA vaccine is basically just a piece, it's just a piece of the virus that cannot infect you, cannot cause more virus to be spread, and you can make a lot of it and still have some sort of immune response. So let's go back to our music example, shall we? So an mRNA virus would literally just be this part of a composition. Dun, 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 dun. That's it. But as soon as you hear those notes, you know exactly what piece I'm talking about, right? exactly. I was waiting. You gotta love this. So the mRNA vaccine is literally just that piece. That's it. But when you see that piece expressed on a virus, your immune system's going to know, oh my gosh, this is Beethoven's Fifth. It's time to attack. Whereas a viral vector vaccine, which is more along the lines of, maybe more of vaccines that we've seen previously in the past, where we have basically a virus that we've rendered that it can't actually replicate in your cells. So it's like me giving you a violin without a sound post. You have a useless violin. I just literally go, here, this is your viral vector. It's, I took out the sound post, and now you have the new viral vector. And instead of, and basically what we do is, again, we put in this theme, dun, 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 into the viral vector. And we tell ourselves, okay, please make dun, 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 dun. Just this sequence. And our cells mass produce that sequence. And, form that part. And our immune systems go, oh, okay, when we see this, we need to actually mount an immune response. So it's both are doing the same thing. They're just doing it in slightly different ways. So there's really no concern as to, which kind of vaccine that you get. The important thing is just get one. So there's also conversation. Okay, Mole, yeah, you're telling me to get a vaccine, but what about all this, 97% efficient and 73% efficient and blah, blah, blah. Like, what does it mean? So I can see Holly's losing it. I've triggered Holly. So basically, let me break down why we have these, percent efficiency numbers. So the efficiency numbers they're not based on, how effective the virus is, like, in your cells overall. It's just basically how effective it is in preventing severe symptoms that get you into the hospital. So when we see these percentages, all the vaccines that are currently available in the U.S., Pfizer, Mrna, Johnson & Johnson, are all effective in preventing you from going to the hospital and having severe symptoms. There are other there are other vaccines such as Sinovac, AstraZeneca, that the results are either just not available or the trials are still ongoing. But the important thing is that vaccines prevent you from, first and foremost, going to the hospital and having severe sickness. The second point of having the vaccines is, maybe you don't have severe symptoms. Can it completely get rid of your symptoms at all, altogether? And the answer is, some of these vaccines are very effective in preventing overall symptoms. But again, the primary goal is we want to keep people out of the hospital. And it's really funny because I was literally working on my notes for Molecast and I had the TV on in the background. And then I just see Boris Johnson on my screen and the headline, UK preparing trials for booster shots. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. So yes, so even though we have these vaccines now, that does not mean that we won't need boosters, especially for these variants in the future, because again, the vaccines that we have currently are only good in recognizing the spring sonata. It's not going to recognize the spring sonata with like Beethoven's Fifth inserted somewhere in there, or the Sibelius inserted somewhere in there. So we're going to need boosters in the future to help our immune system recognize these, different pieces. So there's a lot of questions and comments and concerns. Like what about the priority list, Mole? Like, I want to get back to living. I need to get back to life. So as of now in the United States, I'm not sure about the rest of the world. So all this is from the United States, and I'm super, super sorry. 16 years of age and older can use the Pfizer and Mrna vaccines. Currently, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson are finishing trials for individuals who are between the ages of 12 and 15 years of age, and they're hoping to have these results soon. So if you're 12 years old, raise your hand in the chat. Oh, okay, so now you're banned. Thanks, Dappa. And I'm done modding today. Got 'em, boys. Those results should be here soon. But as far as, people who can't get vaccines now, what's going on? What's the holdup? So, one of the things that's preventing, this mass distribution of vaccines is actual material. So I don't know if you weren't here early on in the server. I have posted many, many pictures. I don't know. I might still have a picture on my phone, actually, of me splitting cells. That's like one of my favorite lines in the server. Like, oh, I've got to go split some cells. See you guys later. But a lot of the materials that we use in science are like disposable plastic. However, because of the vaccine, research and rollout, a lot of these plastic goods have been very, very hard to come by. Actually, to the point now where in the labs, especially in the research labs, it's turning into the Hunger Games. So let's see. Oh, here we go. I have a photo right here. Ha ha ha. So a lot of these plastic goods that we normally use are actually really, really hard to come by. So if they're hard to come by for, our research labs, they're even harder to come by for the facilities that need them the most in order to make these vaccines. So, it's one of those things where, as as companies are able to produce the goods, like, the plates and the pipettes, to produce these plates, it's important for us to remember that, one of the slowdowns is that we just don't have enough material goods. So what does split cells mean? Someone just asked that in the chat. So essentially split cells are like we have a dish, and I'm trying to get to the text chat so I can post this photo. And essentially we have a bunch of little cells in a plate, and as they grow, they end up taking up the majority of the plate, and they will basically run out of space. So when I split them, it's just giving them more space to grow and thrive. Let's see here. I have so many screenshots. I really need to clean out my phone. We're getting there. Scroll. So that's one of the things that's preventing rollout. One of the other things that's preventing rollout is that, regions are scrambling to find an efficient way of getting people signed up for the vaccine. There's been issues with online registration, setting up sites that are able to house a lot of people and get people vaccinated all, at the same time. So that's definitely been a challenge, especially in the United States. So here's a picture of myself. I love them all very dearly. We love you, cells. So that's also another issue. Currently, in regions that have had the vaccine for a while, these issues of, getting people, disseminating the vaccine to many people is starting to be alleviated because we're getting through some of those pitfalls and challenges. But the last thing, and something that is actually very, very infuriating to me, is that some regions are just being locked out of getting the virus. Or not the virus, the vaccine. Oh my gosh, I need more coffee. I need more caffeine. They're getting locked out of getting the vaccine. And the reason being is that we have industry and companies that, create these vaccines and they sell them to countries, and they have kind of going to a concert, right? In concerts, they have pre-sales of tickets, and then maybe they'll hold back some tickets for, general sale. It's the same with the vaccine. They have, pre-sale for a certain number of doses of the vaccine, and then they, have open general sales for the rest of the world. However, some countries maybe can't afford that price. Other countries might have bought too much. We see United States. And, there are other countries that are, countries, the United States included, that are buying a lot of vaccine that is exceeding the population of, that they currently have, which makes it, which also adds to suspicion and will hinder what we will end up, getting into, which is this new normal, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So vaccines are super, super important. Now, I can say as I am considered an essential worker because I did COVID-19 research, and I had to report during the COVID-19 lockdown. If you guys remember that, some of us might have blocked it out of our minds. I'm trying to block it out. But I actually got my vaccine last week. So when you go and get your dose of vaccine, it may be 1 or 2 doses. Mine is 2 doses. And I scheduled it, and I went to get my vaccine. And when you get the vaccine, the needle is very, 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 very small. Like I am deathly afraid of needles. I hate needles. I've gotten my blood drawn enough times. I hate needles. But this one is super small. Like you can't even feel it. The pain comes later. So after you get the vaccine, the next day I couldn't feel, my arm was it felt like lead. There was no way I was practicing. So whenever you guys get the vaccine, heads up, don't expect to be practicing the next day. I couldn't lift my arm above my shoulder. My boss is like, "Are you okay?" I got the Pfizer vaccine. But whatever vaccine is available, to be honest, get it. There's really no difference between any of the vaccines, except whether you get 1 or 2 doses. Yeah. And that pain that I'm talking about is basically your immune system mounting a response. Whenever you mount a proper immune response, you're going to have things such as pain, swelling, heat, so heat in the site of injection. Maybe it's going to be tender. All those things are good things. If you have those things, be proud. Your immune system has done a good job. Yes, exactly. It's good pain. Yes, our immune system's finally a worthy opponent. Exactly. It's like practicing scales. It might be painful as you're practicing. #scale gang. I still see you. But it might be painful while you're doing it, but it will help you in the long run. So funny story. After you get your COVID-19 vaccine, in the United States, you get this vaccination card. And the vaccination card, I'm looking at mine right now, has your name, birth date, maybe if you have a patient number, they'll have it down on your card, and then it has your first dose, your second dose, and then 2 slots for boosters if and when they come. So when I got my vaccination card, the first thing I did was I texted my mom, texted my dad, texted my boss. I was like, look, got the vaccine. Hooray, we're doing great. And then the second thing that I did was I actually took a photo of my vaccination card. And I'll explain why I did that in a little bit. And then I proceeded to drop it. Nice job, Mole. You dropped your card. And I didn't realize that I dropped and lost the card until I came home. I was home and I'm like digging through all my stuff. Like, where did my vaccination card go? And I was like, oh my gosh, I lost it. I know, good thing I took a picture. So then I called Walgreens, because that's where I got my vaccine from. And I was like, oh my gosh, I lost my vaccination card. Would it be okay if I came back, and got another one? Like, I have all my documentation. I have a picture of the card. And the guy was like, yeah, sure, come back, no problem. And then, and then I went, and I'll actually explain that to Vera in a little bit. When I came back, and I was like, you know what? I should check the hallways and make sure it's just not lying on the ground somewhere. And then I found it right where I was texting my parents, I had the vaccine. So no, I actually still only have one card because I never went to go get the replacement card. So I found my original card. So happy ending, but whoops, a whoops moment on Mole's part. So I did tell you guys that Molecast is where I talk about musical things or things going on in the music world in a scientific context. So here we go to the music part of it. The music world, as we all know, has come to a crashing halt. We've had online virtual streaming, we've done online lessons, we had the Discord, we've tried to keep music going as best as we can. However, now that we have vaccines, we're starting to see a shift in venues opening up. The New York Philharmonic has reopened. They're actually reopening on April 14th in a location called The Shed. Oh my gosh, I stopped and I was like, wait, they're playing in something called The Shed? Yes, it's called The Shed. Let me give you guys a screenshot of this shed. It's actually, it's credit to violinist.com. This is the shed that they're playing in. And it actually isn't it's big. It has social distancing. People can sit inside, and it really does look like a shed. It looks like the inside of my dad's shed. But it's great. We're, New York Philharmonic's trying to get back up online. There are some summer festivals that are still occurring in person. Festivals such as Bravo Vale, which I'm hopefully going to be able to attend a concert or two. Chicago Symphony is back in Ravinia, starting in July with chief conductor Mrna Vaccine. I am so excited, freaking out over here. If you don't see me on the server, I'm at Ravinia. So let me give you guys a brief, why I love Ravinia so much. Ravinia is an outdoor arena that is part the Hollywood Bowl, if you guys have seen the setup of the Hollywood Bowl with fixed seating in tiers, but part lawn. So a lot of my friends and I like to go to the Chicago Symphony concerts because it's for $10. You have a lawn seat, you can bring a picnic, you can bring whatever you want, as long as it's not a weapon or something. So we usually bring a picnic dinner. We bring our instruments. It's so much fun. So when I heard that Chicago Symphony is back in Ravinia this summer with concerts, yes, it's the best thing in the world, Newt. If I could listen to every classical music concert at Ravinia, I would. Other festivals include the Aspen Music Festival. Tanglewood is coming back. Glyndonborn, I am so sorry, Holly. I probably butchered that. these are all venues that are planning on opening up again to in-person audiences with social distancing. Most of these venues are requiring that you have either a vaccination card, so the card that I just talked about, or that you have proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours. Yep. Some of these are 48, others are 72, but you have to have proof that you took a negative COVID test. So the music world is trying to reopen. Is this Ravinia? This does look like, oh yes, this is Ravinia. This was the plan that this is like the lawn is usually where we're sitting. The building isn't where we have the concerts. The outdoor concerts are where the photographer is standing. So behind him, it's probably the most magical place in the world. But back to these venues in the music world trying to reopen. It's been a very, very long year for music venues. 2021 and 2022 are looking to also be incredibly long and hard for the music industry as well. But reopening venues is a step in the right direction. And now I'm going to get into the last part of my Molecast today, which is preparing for this, quote, new normal. So Greta and Vero and a couple other people were asking me, are we ever going to get to a point, Mole, where we don't have to wear masks, where we don't have to test all the time? What will we ever get back to the old normal? And I hate to say it, but as of now, in the foreseeable future, we can't really go back to the old ways of normal. And the reason why is really because of these variants. We don't have enough data as to how frequently variants pop up in the population. We don't have data as to how a vaccinated population can hinder or stop the spread of variants. So essentially, for the next upcoming year, 2021, 2022, we will probably see where we have to wear masks still, where and the mask wearing will definitely be required. And the reason why we have to have masks is that as we're gathering data onto the transmission of COVID-19 and its variants, we just want to be able to keep the population safe, especially for individuals who may not be able to respond to the vaccine, or to individuals who, for some reason just didn't get the vaccine in general. We have to have data as to the population that has the vaccine and the population that doesn't. So masks are definitely going to be a thing for a while. I know for a fact I have to go out now and buy more cloth masks because mine are starting to get kind of weird and stretched out. So you should also, think about getting better fitting masks for a little while. And the idea is that the more people that get vaccinated, the more we can slow the spread of variants and transmission. Now, the COVID-19 vaccines that are currently out are not guaranteed to prevent transmission of the virus. We know that they reduce the amount of virus that each person holds, but it doesn't mean that you can't still spread the virus. But low amounts of virus means low amounts of spread. Another thing that we will also have to contend with is testing. Why do we still need to test? We need to test because testing allows us not only to, one, prepare hospitals and other clinics for, surges and to see how much COVID-19 is spreading within the population, but the other thing that's important is that testing allows us to see what variants are in the population. And Anchor, I'm actually going to address that question a little bit about getting, because measles is a bit different than COVID-19. because measles doesn't mutate as frequently as COVID-19. So what you thought might have been the measles might actually have been a different reaction. Because if you're talking about getting a rash and a fever, I got the same thing when I had the measles vaccine, but it was because I was a non-responder. So yeah, like you just got a rash, right? Yeah, so that's actually, the rash is an immune response. That's not the vaccine. That's not the virus. It's it's your immune system mounting a response, because it's part of the redness, the swelling, that's your immune system being robust. So give your immune system a pat on the back. So back to COVID-19. Sorry, when you see misinformation like that, the scientist in me just goes like, whoa, gotta do something. Sorry. But testing will still be a thing. And if you're at university, if you're at public school, currently, you will probably need to be tested, on a weekly basis. Currently, at my university, I'm tested bi-weekly. And yes, I can. And the reason why is that we can track how much transmission is going on in the community, and the data from testing is actually sent to a huge database. I have access to it. A lot of researchers who are doing COVID-19 researchers have access to it, but it allows us to see all the variants that are currently going on in the population. Every single variant. So all like 4,000 plus variants of COVID-19 are in this database. It's the craziest thing in the world. But that's why we also test too, is to see, what new compositions of the spring sonata are currently, being disseminated in the community. So testing is definitely going to be a thing. What also might become a new part of the new normal is that you will need to show your vaccination card, and you may need to get something known as a vaccination passport. So in order to prevent the spread of transmission within a community or between regions, you will get a vaccination card, and this card will hopefully allow you to go to certain indoor activities because you have proof that you have gotten the vaccine. And some countries and or regions may require it upon entry. Otherwise, you'll have to do the 2 weeks quarantine, which we all know and love so well. The only part about these vaccination cards and these passports is that there isn't a uniform system yet between, not only between countries, but also within countries. And also there are still some countries that don't have the vaccine, or, it doesn't look like they're going to get the vaccine for a while due to socioeconomic or political conflicts. It might be harder for them to get that vaccine for a while. So just preparing to have that vaccination card on you. One way that you can, if you're like me and you dropped your vaccination card and you're like, oh no, where did I lose my vaccination card? You can take a picture. I would take a picture of both sides of your vaccination card whenever you get it. Put it on your phone, or store it in your computer or laptop somewhere to keep it safe. Currently in the United States, there are some universities that are requiring vaccination upon entry. Rutgers is one. University of Notre Dame is another. I'm sure there'll be more universities as we get closer to the fall 2021 semester that will require vaccination. Yes, Ina also makes a good point as well. You should also send your vaccination card photos to a trusted person as well, just in case, just like you would do for your passport or your government ID. So just be prepared that there may be requirements to be vaccinated upon entry. Don't DM the fake Ray. Oh no. vaccination card. That's the other thing that I wanted to also discuss with you as well. You might have seen on social media that some people are taking pictures of their vaccination cards. Don't do that. Do not do that. Why should you not do that? The reason why is that there's a lot of personal information on your vaccination card. It has your name, it has your birth date. If you're like an identity theft person, that's like the easiest way to steal someone's identity. As we've seen with Ray, like he got his identity stolen and that was just on Instagram. Also too, at least for the United States vaccination cards, there might be a patient number that's listed on your card. That patient number is tied to all of your medical records, which is also tied to your insurance as well. That's dangerous. So definitely, like, that's another reason why you shouldn't post your vaccination card. Finally, there's also a lot number. So when you get the vaccine, there is a lot number. That lot number indicates what wave of the vaccine that you got. So like on my Pfizer vaccine, there's a lot number. So the lot number is probably not as dangerous to expose, but again, any information like the less information you can put out in the public, the better. I mean, that's why my name's Mole. Like, it's like the Clark Kent. You never know where I'm gonna be. Until I start laughing at a Ray Chen concert, everyone's gonna be like, it's Mole. I'll have to be. I won't be able to laugh. And the other thing too to remember is that science is still, gathering data as far as these vaccines are concerned. So we're unsure of how long the vaccine is going to last. So we may need to have a booster. We may need to have several boosters. So just be prepared to be very, very flexible in our lifestyles and in in our living situations. What does this mean for the music community, though? Unfortunately, guys, it looks like we might still be virtual for a little while musically. Bigger venues such as like Chicago Symphony, New York Philharmonic, LA Phil might be able to host concerts in person with smaller crowds and social distancing. But as government regulations continue to fluctuate based on the number of cases that we have in the region, those crowd sizes may have to adjust accordingly. Unless you're Texas or Florida. Sorry. Wow, just got to clear those airways. But what does that mean for all of us who are musicians or just general music lovers? Concerts may not be, might be very, very different for a while. Prepare for things such as more chamber orchestras, quartet performances. I love the Dover Quartet. They're like my favorite quartet in the world, so I'm more than happy to listen to more of their material. Duet material, so like violin, piano, viola, piano, etc. So prepare for a lot more performances of that nature. Prepare for a lot more hybrid, so like hybrid classes, hybrid courses. Just be prepared for a lot more, for a blend of online and in-person learning. When I was looking at a lot of, summer music camps, currently a lot of summer music camps that would have been in person this year are still virtual. So we're still contending with this, some things are opening, other things are closing, until we can get everybody, vaccinated and we can really understand how frequent variants pop up and how much they'll spread in a vaccinated population. We are just going to have to be very, very flexible. There are a couple questions. I've seen your questions. I want to leave time at the end to answer all of your questions because I think this is very, very important. But what can we do as, wholesome, chaotic server members of the Ray Violin Chen, or the Ray Chen Violin Discord. That man is going to cancel me someday. I'm going to get fired. I'm just going to wake up tomorrow morning and Ray's just going to be like, you're fired. I'll be like, yep. Ray Violin Chen. I like it. I think we should really petition that to be our new name, especially for April Fool's Day. It's a much better name. What can we do? You're fired. I know. So continue to push to get your loved ones vaccinated. And Greta really did bring up a good question. You know, there's a lot of people that have doubts on taking the vaccine because, you know, the side effects or just not knowing the long-term health concerns that could be, you know, posed because you're taking this vaccine. The big things that I can tell you from the scientist point of view is that mRNA vaccines such as Pfizer and Moderna have been in development for a long time. Really, the COVID-19 pandemics, what has pushed them to become more of a mainstream resource. Otherwise, it would have taken even longer for mRNA vaccines to be, you know, available. And part of the problem is that, again, science has a very long and horrible history of not being able to communicate well to the mass population. And that is our fault as scientists. We should be able to communicate our research and say, you know, mRNA vaccines have been in development for a long time. It's just that the final step has been pushed a little faster. But we have research, years and years of research to show that, you know, mRNA vaccines work and that they are safe. But I understand there's also a very, very long history of science medicine not being as truthful and as forthcoming to the general population, especially to marginalized groups. So it's going to be a lot harder to get those groups on board to get vaccinated. And, you know, understandable, we have not been forthcoming, and it's this is our moment of reckoning as science, as medicine. Just like, you know, the classical music community is also dealing with a reckoning of including marginalized groups in the conversation for classical music. We're both dealing with these, you know, these problems that we've avoided for so long. And it's time to pay up, unfortunately. But what I would say to your loved ones is that, you know, there is decades of research showing that mRNA vaccines are safe. But if you're someone who's in a high-risk group, let's say someone with heart disease or diseases that have high levels of inflammation, that you should talk to your doctor. Your primary care physician or the physician that treats you for your, you know, particular disease would be the best person to talk to as far as whether or not that vaccine would be safe for you. I did say that, you know, the first dose of the vaccine causes your arm to feel like lead. I kid you not, I felt like the most useless person in lab last week. I was just like, I can't do anything. I have like one arm. Yeah, I'm just like, and I was like, it looks like your arm's just like hanging there, Mole. Are you okay? But the second dose of the vaccine actually has even more side effects than the first dose. These side effects include, you know, a fever for maybe like an hour or two, overall aches, pain. The site of injection will again become this rigid arm. And that's just because your immune system has seen that sequence before, so it's going to mount an even bigger immune response, which is what we want. The bigger the immune response, the better that you can, clear the virus quickly. There just has to be a proper balance between the amount of immune response that you make and the damage that it's going to cause to your body. Because, like, again, just like practicing scales, you can practice scales too much. And if you do, you'll hurt your fingers. You'll hurt yourself. So you have to practice. Uh-oh. Am I still around, guys? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good. All right. All right, perfect. I was just like, oh my gosh, is Discord doing me dirty? Oh no. So it's important to realize that even though the side effects may be, you know, a little greater the second dose, it's important for people to get vaccinated. So talk to your doctor to make sure that it doesn't happen for the first one because you haven't seen that. Usually you haven't seen that before, but it happens for the second one because you have seen that sequence before, which is why you're mounting an immune response. So which is good. The other thing that we can do is we can continue to push for equal access to the vaccine. You know, we've seen many social media campaigns as far as, you know, social justice, social reform, but I don't think there is as much conversation as making sure that all regions and all countries have access to the vaccine. So by pushing lawmakers and legislators to free up like extra doses of the vaccine, can ensure that the rest of the world can get vaccinated and we can get back to our new normal. Finally, the other thing that we can do is watch our media consumption. As we all know, the media tends to give out a lot of information, and some of it is useful information, and others is it's just not useful information. The media isn't bad. The media isn't a bad thing. It's just how we have to interpret it. It's kind of like listening to like a nice Telemann sonata. But when you listen to that Telemann sonata, there's a lot of vibrato. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this the way that all Baroque music should be played? Should it be played with a lot of vibrato in this romantic style? No. Meg's just like, stop it, Bull. But like the base of the information might be right. Like it might be, you know, a Telemann sonata, but it's just kind of twisted in a different way. So it's important to follow the data and ask questions, especially if you don't know or if you're unsure. And to look at many different sources for information, not just one or two sources on Facebook or Twitter. Don't get me wrong, I love Twitter. Twitter's so great to like scroll through and you're like, oh boy, I'm gonna just click this and click that. You know, but it's always good to check multiple sources. Don't just rely on one. Also too, there's a lot of there's also information, and I feel like it's my job as a researcher and a scientist to address this recent article and recent statements that have come out from the former CDC director, Robert Redfield. If you're unaware, there is conversation from Dr. Redfield that suggests that the COVID-19 virus was escaped from a lab in China. That is not true. The research that has come out does not support that this virus escaped from a lab. When we work with respiratory viruses are meant to be cultured and propagated in such a way that we only use a minimal amount of virus in order to achieve an immune response or in order to study the virus. If we grow a lot of virus, it's usually because we're going to store it. We're not trying to do research on it. And when I read that article, I was just like, this is so wrong. That's like not what we do in like virology research at all. Having a lot of virus is a very dangerous thing. So we store it because we because like growing virus takes a long time, and actually I might even have pictures of it. Some viruses we grow in eggs, in like fertilized eggs, and it's the longest, most adorous process in the world. I want to like I actually have a picture of the last time we grew a respiratory virus. Let's see. Again, I need to clean out my phone. I know. It's spring cleaning. I will put it on my to-do list. I have so many screenshots. I live on screenshots. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Mole, why do I have so many screenshots? Stop this. I'm like a hot mess. I am such a hot mess. Let's see. Nope. Oh my gosh, there's so many screenshots here. This is such a hot mess. Here we go. So this is a picture of the how we grow the eggs. So basically we inject the eggs with virus, and the virus grows in the eggs, and then that's how we harvest them. So when we have a lot of when we make a lot of virus, because this process takes like a whole month, like takes a whole 2 weeks to do. The lab stops and all you do is grow virus. It's a pain in the butt. So we don't want to have like a lot of virus when we're doing experiments. We only make a lot of virus when we're trying to like make stocks in stores. No, thank God. No one has ever confused them for breakfast groceries. They come in like this big, large box. It's a whole thing. So it's important. I felt it was important to bring this up because, the media has been, saying like, no, there are no credible scientists that are currently doing active research in COVID-19 that support the statement from the CDC director that this virus escaped from a lab. And the current research is actually more so suggesting that because of, the variants that this virus has picked up since like September, October 2019, that it makes it really hard to track this, like where this virus originated from. We need to have stocks because otherwise, if we don't have stocks, we have to buy the virus fresh each time, and that virus is like $500 every time we need to buy a vial. So it's just not like, it's not cost effective. Yeah. So it's just important to, yes. I mean, the claims that it originated in Wuhan from a lab are incorrect. The only thing that we can say is that, the first location of patients was in Wuhan, but where it actually came from, like a bat or a lab or something else, that jury is still out, and the research is suggesting that no, it's not from a lab. So wow, we have done a lot of discussion on COVID-19, and I know there's a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat to questions by just saying hashtag, we're not going to do hashtag question because then question of the week is going to come up. So hashtag Molecast, and I will go ahead and answer any questions that you guys might have, because I do feel that this is important. And I saw questions like scrolling, and I was like, I'm going to lose my flow. What did we speak? Huh? I see several people typing in the chat, so I'm going to just take a little bit of coffee here. So good. So good. I love my caffeine. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Nope, we are not hatching those eggs. Those eggs, they're fertilized, but the virus growth is before those eggs would hatch. Oh yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Newt. Thank you. Yeah, so I still see several people are typing. Yes. Oh, so any charities that we could donate to help more people get the vaccine. As of right now, I don't know any charities or or affiliations like that to help more people get the vaccine because countries themselves are buying the vaccine. I think the important thing is to make sure you speak out up to your legislative branch or to your government. So like for the United States, contact your senator or representative. I'm not unsure in other regions, to push to have, additional doses of the vaccine disseminated to regions that might not be able to get that vaccine otherwise. Yeah, contact Parliament. Yeah. What's the youngest age that someone can get a vaccine? Why can't people under 18 get it yet? Great question. So in the United States, the youngest age someone can get a vaccine is 16 years of age. The reason why people under 18 or under 16 can't get it yet is because we don't have data yet seeing first how the vaccine affects younger individuals, children, and preteens. And number two, we don't know the correct dosage. So actually, when I got my vaccine, one of the concerns that my boss had, because I'm 158.5 centimeters, which is 5'2", and 47 kilograms, which is 105 pounds. So I'm a very, very small person. My boss was like, that's a lot of vaccine for you to be getting. And he wasn't sure like how that amount of vaccine was going to affect my response. So there are currently trials underway, Meg, and hopefully within the next couple of days, Pfizer is going to release their findings on how the vaccine affects 12 to 15-year-olds and the dosing. Hopefully by like fall 2021, the vaccine will be open to individuals that are younger. So hopefully that answers your question. Purple, is there a way to decontaminate a surgical N95 mask to use more than once? You probably don't want to decontaminate a surgical N95 mask, but you could do a UV light on it. But the problem is that using sprays causes you to have to breathe in those sprays, and using UV light actually breaks down the fibers that the N95 mask use. So an alternative solution to having a surgical N95 mask is to actually use two masks. So what I use in the lab is I have a cloth mask that's like my outer mask, and then my inner mask is the surgical mask. So more masks is better than like less masks. And then basically what I do is I throw away the surgical mask, and then I can reuse the cloth mask, but just like wash it. I don't use this mask more than once a day because again, it just helps with stopping the spread. Where do we find reliable information about the different brands of vaccine? And do you think one is better than the other? That's also a really good question. Thank you. So reliable information about the different brands of vaccines. I really enjoy going, because I'm a scientist. My news source is usually Cell, Science, or Nature, which is like the big three science journals in the science world. Like I'm getting ready to publish my final paper in this lab, and I'm getting ready to submit for Molecular Cell, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, Molecular Cell takes my paper, I'll be famous. But those are like the big three, and those news sources, they show the data and they explain it in a way that the general public can understand for the most part. So that's one great place to start. The other thing you can do as well is, again, read multiple news outlet sources. If 95% of your news sources are saying the same thing, most likely it's correct. Do you think one vaccine is better than the other? No. And I'll tell you why. It's because all the vaccines that are currently approved by the FDA and that are currently used in like many, many different like countries and regions right now are all guaranteed to prevent severe symptoms of COVID-19 and preventing you from going into the hospital. And these vaccines, and that's really the main goal. We don't want people to get sick, and we don't want people to die. So really the best vaccine is the vaccine that's available. because the science has been done to make sure that these vaccines are safe and that they do the job. But that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. How concerned should we be about getting COVID from surfaces? So originally, when we first came out with COVID-19, we were super concerned about, can you get COVID-19 from surfaces? The data is coming out now that getting COVID-19 from surfaces is actually not as common as getting it from like droplets or from the air. You should still wash your hands. You should still, make sure you have clean surfaces, because the big concern is you cough in your mouth and then you like touch a surface and then someone touches that surface. But like the actual likelihood of that happening, because we're wearing so many masks, is a lot lower than it was before. But that's a really great question. Thanks, Vero. Scrolling through. La da 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 da. Oh, thanks, Justina. Ooh woo. Oh, and then someone just said we use the Sinovac vaccine here. Sinovac has also been shown through data released by China to prevent severe symptoms and from preventing you to go into the hospital. Oh yeah, so let me just type them into the chat. So it's Cell, Science, and Nature. And if you look at the recording, I will make sure that I have the links to all three of those sources in the show notes. So you'll be able to access those there as well. They have like news briefings. That's how I got the article on like how the arts can help you craft a successful research career. Yeah, so you can get like all your news there as well. Awesome. Wow. So I don't know if there's any other questions. You can go ahead and ask them at this time. If not, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up this Molecast, because wow, we've gone for over an hour. But it's just so great to be back and talking with you guys again about the things that, get me excited about, both. Yeah, we're like over an hour. I really should do an episode on laugh therapy. I remember saying that at the very beginning of Molecast, and it never actually happened. Oh yeah, Meg, you have a question. Go for it. Oh yeah, there's so much disinformation about COVID. Yes, definitely share that data soon. I would love to see it. I keep reading these like mole laugh records. Ooh. Oh, yeah, so the liquid that they put the swabs in, that's a great question. Okay, so when you get a COVID test, it's red. Exactly. So so when you get the swab test, you have to go into your nose like super deep and like do like 5 to 15 swabs. Oh, Newt, that's so cute. And then they put it into this red liquid. This red liquid actually helps to do two things. And it doesn't matter what kind of test you get, whether it's a mouth test or whether it's a nose swab. But basically what it does is two things. Number one, it helps to preserve the RNA. And the RNA is extremely important for seeing whether or not you have the COVID-19 virus replicating inside of you, because the COVID-19 virus is an RNA virus. The second thing that it does is it also helps to break down all of those like nasty mucus. The mucus that's like in your nose, like if you've ever done the swab and you get like a big like booger or something, it helps to break that down as well. Yeah, so like the pink material, we call it trizol, and it helps to break down that like disgusting stuff, as well as keep the RNA intact. So if you have COVID-19 virus, it's going to keep it safe before they like run the test. Yeah, that's a great question, Meg. Thanks for asking. All right, Neil has a question. Any tips on pushing for companies to change policies? A friend's employer didn't let sick people have time off work, so people with COVID kept working, and now they're not letting her wear a hat after she lost her hair due to COVID that she got at work. That's a really, really good question. And a good point, because I know that schools are going to be reopening soon if they're not already to in-person learning. And as well as universities, there'll be a big shift to having people, get back to work. Unfortunately, I don't have many tips for companies to change policies besides, talking to human resources, talking to your supervisor, talking to, people who have the power to change policies. Hi. But the big thing that I would do is, make sure that you keep yourself safe, which is, make sure you wear a mask, make sure you social distance. More masks are better than less masks. So if you see someone who's sick, put on an extra surgical mask. If you see someone who looks really, really sick, I know some companies do have like a pool policy for sick days. Like you can put all of your sick days in a pool. Try to encourage coworkers also to help each other out if you can. If you pushing companies to change policies, sometimes it's data driven, but there's also, because we've had such a slump in the economy, companies are also very reluctant to change these policies. So it really depends on, how companies are, dealing with that. But I think the biggest thing that you can do, Neil, and your friends as well, is to, take proper precautions on your end to keep each other safe. I'm really sorry that that's not a great response. Is there a chance that scientists will speak up for people and explain what is going on in order to clear things out and deny many of the rumors and theories that exist at the moment? I think scientists are trying. If you go on Twitter, so it's kind of funny in the classical music world, Instagram is like the big platform for a lot of musicians to share their music and share their art. Twitter is like the playground for scientists. That's where scientists tweet and share their papers and share their data. Twitter is huge. So there are scientists that are speaking up, and there are scientists that are trying to, clear and deny many of the rumors and theories that are existing at the moment. Even Dr. Anthony Fauci, the chief medical advisor of President Biden. Science is trying, but I think science is trying to address a very large population, whereas Molecast, I'm addressing a population that we share more things in common than just we're all suffering with COVID-19. We also are musicians and we enjoy classical music. Having scientists that, in my opinion, now this is again my opinion, so no, it doesn't reflect the views of others. Having scientists that can relate to people with different levels, scientists that are interested in sports, or scientists that are interested in, other activities that they can identify with the public and make these kind of analogies. It may also help in, clearing some of the confusion and disinformation. However, there's also going to be fear and prejudice because of the lack of communication in the past. So those are just things that, are going to remain regardless of what we do. But that's a great question. Thank you so much. Bye, Vero. Oh, another great question. Will there be any side effect if we put on masks for too long, especially for those laborers who need extra physical strength to do their work? No. There is no side effects for having a mask on for too long, depending on what mask that you use. The N95s do cause some, restricted blood flow around your face, but there was actually a really good experiment where someone put on 8 to 10 surgical masks and could still measure the amount of respiration that they had, and it was the same as if he didn't have any masks. So no side effects, only safety. And he did this on TikTok. I remember seeing it and I was like, yes, this is how we should do all research, on TikTok. Oh, it's so great. Thank you guys so much for all these questions. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. The next Molecast will probably be at the end of next month. We have topics such as, Zoom fatigue, because I know we're all super, super tired of Zoom. And it was actually funny because the Zoom fatigue Molecast that was supposed to happen today was literally just why Discord is better than Zoom, a podcast. So that podcast, that Molecast will be coming up. There's going to be a Molecast in the future discussing about artificial intelligence in music, since we've seen, because of the pandemic, a big shift in technology and incorporating it with music. So I'm super excited about that. If you guys, oh my gosh, yes, Newt, yes. I love it. If you guys have any other suggestions or topics that you would like to talk about for Molecast, please DM me. I love getting suggestions and asking like scientific questions on things that are going on either in the server or in music. And then H reminded me of the laugh therapy, and Purple reminded me of the laugh therapy Molecast. So we should definitely look into doing that sometime. So thank you guys so much for attending this Molecast, and hopefully I will see you again. Look for the announcement for the next Molecast in pinned messages in the general chat. And this episode will be uploaded onto the YouTube channel, which I will drop the link here. I think you can also do announcements on the YouTube channel. I'm a complete boomer, but I've seen like Two-Set do that sometimes, so I might try doing that. Yes, okay, thank you, Meg. So I might also try doing that for announcing future Molecast episodes as well. So if you subscribe to that, I sound like such a YouTuber now. Ew, that's so gross. But if you subscribe to this, I will try to be really good about putting updates on future Molecast episodes as well. So, awesome. Thank you guys so much for all of your attention and your amazing questions and your support. I love you. I love you all. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.